Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're wrestling with something genuinely toxic. It's a paradox, really. A hidden cost of success that, well, it quietly destroys wealth and mental health, especially in immigrant communities.
Yeah.
We're diving into what the source material calls the success trap. It's this pretty brutal cycle.
It is.
It's heavily documented among children of African immigrants where you see this intense pressure to achieve, professional success.
Right.
But then it's immediately followed by financial exploitation and just this crushing cultural judgment for that very success.
It's a devastating double bind, absolutely. And the sources we looked at, they don't just list symptoms, they actually lay out how this functions. It's like a structured system of obligation.
System, okay.
Yeah. So our mission today is, well, to understand the mechanics of this system, to really analyze the staggering financial and, frankly, psychological toll it takes.
Right.
And maybe most importantly, explore the specific actionable strategies people are actually using right now to try and break free. Because the central tension here is just, it's acute. How do you honor a family's sacrifice without basically surrendering your entire financial future and your cultural identity along with it?
That really is the core question, isn't it? So let's start at the beginning with the conditioning.
Yeah.
The sources call it the success mandate. For these individuals, success isn't just like a nice goal. It's treated as a moral obligation. The whole family narrative is built on sacrifice.
Absolutely. The core message is relentless. You hear it constantly. We brought you here for opportunities we never had.
Yeah, that exact phrase.
And the imperative that follows is always work harder than everyone else. You have to be twice as good just to stand still.
Twice as good. Wow.
That heavy emphasis on sacrifice, it completely transforms achievement. It's not a personal goal anymore. It becomes this mandatory, almost communal debt.
A debt, okay.
And this debt idea, it gets codified through what the sources identify as the investment mentality.
Which means it's not just some vague feeling of sacrifice. It's like they keep a tally, an itemized ledger.
Precisely. Exactly. Every school fee, every hardship the family faced, maybe the parents' own deferred dreams or careers. These are all framed, sometimes really explicitly, as documented investments, made directly into the child's future earning potential.
So success becomes the ROI.
It's presented as the inevitable return on investment, yeah. Not a personal triumph. And the flip side is brutal. If you fail, you haven't just failed yourself. You've basically wiped out the family's life savings and, dishonored their struggle.
It sounds like this completely fuses the child's identity with their economic output. Their self-worth gets calculated by grades, then job titles, then salary.
That's the conditioning.
But, if the family genuinely feels justified because of these sacrifices, these documented sacrifices, what's the argument against their eventual claim on the income? Morally, I mean.
And that is the tragic knot right at the center of this trap, isn't it? The argument isn't really against supporting family. Nobody's saying don't help your parents.
Right.
It's against the terms of that support. The problem is the debt is framed as infinite. And the interest rate, it's guilt.
Infinite debt.
Yeah. The individual isn't really allowed financial independence because, well, that would imply the parents' sacrifices weren't enough or maybe weren't fully appreciated. Or worse, that the child is abandoning them just when they've become successful.
So the system needs the child to stay kind of dependent.
Dependent on the family's needs, yes. To validate the parents' past choices, the whole psychological framework is set up for that.
Okay, so this framework sets the stage perfectly for the next phase. Once the achievement actually happens, the degree, the good job, the system shifts. Almost violently, it seems.
It does.
Into collection mode. We move right into what the sources call the success penalty.
That's the financial takeover. And you're right. There's often no grace period, no time to just enjoy the achievement.
No celebration lap.
None.
Ah.
The moment that first decent paycheck lands, or even is anticipated, the collection phase begins. Often with a really unambiguous message like, okay, now you owe us.
And this demand, it's deeply invasive, right? People reporting that their salary info is demanded, sometimes before they've even signed the employment contract.
Yes, exactly. And their personal financial goals, saving for retirement, maybe a down payment on a house, building an emergency fund, all that stuff, instantly relegated, secondary status. Compared to the extended family's financial needs, which can be domestic, but often also back home, abroad.
Wow.
So getting a promotion isn't just about your career growth anymore. It's viewed primarily as an increase in the income stream that's expected to benefit the entire extended family network.
The whole network.
Sometimes, yeah, dozens of people across continents. It's a huge burden.
But the cruelty of this cycle seems to accelerate here.
Yeah.
Because the financial takeover, this penalty, is often immediately followed by something else. The cultural punishment.
Yeah, yes.
The very success that was demanded, that was mandated, is now the trigger for rejection, for alienation.
That's the classic double bind. It's incredibly painful. The successful individual gets criticized, often harshly, for the very things that might be required to maintain their professional status in, say, a Western society.
Like what? Give us some examples from the sources.
Okay, so things like using standard professional English at work, or choosing to live in a safer, maybe more expensive neighborhood, even dressing in ways considered appropriate for a high-level career.
Okay.
These normal professional adjustments are suddenly labeled as acting white. They trigger those coconut accusations, brown on the outside, white on the inside.
Meaning they're accused of abandoning their culture.
Right.
For Western assimilating.
Exactly. And it's so deeply unfair because the community demanded they climb that professional ladder. But climbing that ladder inevitably requires adjusting certain behaviors, maybe shedding ways of speaking or dressing that are seen as too traditional or just unprofessional in a globalized work setting.
So the community says, succeed.
But don't change, which is impossible.
Okay, so the impossible equation you pulled from the sources is basically succeed, which is mandatory, plus don't change, which is impossible, plus support everyone, unlimited demand, constant failure and guilt.
That sums it up perfectly. It creates this self-perpetuating system of psychological damage. And it's important to grasp the community's distrust isn't always just simple envy.
Oh.
It often stems from a deeper structural anxiety. If the successful member fully integrates, becomes financially independent, sets boundaries, well, the community might lose a vital financial lifeline, sometimes their only external lifeline.
So the success has to be shared, redistributed, almost as a way to maintain loyalty and necessity.
In a way, yes. It keeps the successful person tethered, prevents them from getting too big or forgetting where they came from, which often translates to forgetting their financial obligations.
That brings us right to the mechanics, the really shocking mechanics of the financial extraction. Let's talk about the specific architecture of the remittance trap and how it escalates. It's not always obvious at first, is it?
No, it often starts quite deceptively, gently even. A contribution described as, just help a little, maybe $100, $200 a month to a parent. Seems reasonable. But the source material details an almost inevitable escalation. It transitions, often rapidly, into what we're calling the dependency phase.
Dependency phase, okay.
And in this phase, the extended family's entire financial planning, it shifts. They stop treating the contribution as a gift, as optional help.
And start treating it like, what, guaranteed income?
Guaranteed inelastic revenue, yeah. Their budgets start assuming that individuals' income is part of their baseline. It's factored in.
And this revenue stream, it activates the entire extended network, doesn't it? It's not just the immediate parents anymore.
Oh, absolutely. Cousins, aunts, uncles, sometimes people who had very little contact before, suddenly they appear.
They appear with needs.
They appear with expertly deployed emotional tools. This is where the guilt economy really kicks into high gear.
The guilt economy.
Yeah, the emotional manipulation techniques used to enforce compliance, they're quite sophisticated. We see the constant sacrifice narrative weaponization.
That phrase again, we gave up everything.
Exactly. We gave up everything for your success, used constantly as leverage against any attempt to set boundaries, or even just ask for transparency about where the money is going. Any pushback is framed as ingratitude.
And then there's the other major tactic, crisis manufacturing. Can you give us a concrete example from the sources? How does that actually work?
Absolutely. The sources document quite a few cases. One common pattern is creating urgent needs to demand immediate lump sums, bypassing any sense of budgeting or limits.
Like a sudden emergency.
Right. For example, one person described getting a frantic call needing several $1,000s for a supposedly life-saving medical procedure for a grandparent. Urgent, critical.
Okay.
Only to find out later, maybe months later, that the money was actually used for, say, a lavish family celebration, or maybe seed money for a risky business venture someone wanted to try.
Wow. So the emergency wasn't real.
Or it was vastly exaggerated. Another case involved an urgent need for high school fees for a distant cousin. The person sent the money, wanting to help with education.
Yeah.
Then they found out later the cousin wasn't even enrolled in school. The story was just a mechanism, a fabricated crisis, to access the funds immediately, no questions asked.
Deliberate manipulation.
It's designed to override logical financial planning with an immediate, gut-level emotional response. Guilt and panic are powerful motivators.
Okay, let's talk about the actual economic damage here.
Yeah.
The sources quantify this, don't they? It's not just anecdotes.
They do. They estimate the lifetime financial calculation for a typical individual caught in this trap. Over a 30-year career, the direct outflow money sent for family support, obligations, these manufactured crises,
Yeah.
it can easily reach $792,000.
Wait, nearly $800,000.
Yeah.
Gone in direct cash outflow.
Over a career, yes. Just redirected as mandated support, often with zero transparency or accountability. That figure alone is hard to comprehend.
It is. Almost $1 million.
Yeah. But that's just the direct cost, the money that actually leaves their bank account. The truly devastating figure, the one that really highlights the lost potential, is the opportunity cost.
Okay, what's that?
The source material meticulously calculates what would happen if that same $792,000 wasn't sent away, but instead was invested, even at a conservative 7% average annual return over a standard 30-year career.
What does it become?
That lost $792,000 translates to approximately $6,032,000 in lost wealth.
$6 million.
$6 million. That's the potential net worth vaporized.
That is the price tag.
Yeah.
For cultural duty that's actually, functioning as exploitation, that represents generations of wealth, not just stagnating, but actively being destroyed by the cultural expectation that prohibits saving and investing for oneself.
And to really feel the weight of that, the injustice of it, you have to contrast this reality with what their Western peers often experience, what the sources call the privilege gap.
What's the difference there?
Well, think about the typical American or European middle-class family model. Individual financial success isn't usually seen as a debt owed back to the family. It's the goal.
Right. It's celebrated.
Exactly. Achieving financial independence is often seen as the ultimate measure of successful parenting. The parents are proud the child is standing on their own 2 feet.
So the expectation is once the child is established, they're free, financially free to pursue their own goals.
Yeah.
House, family, retirement.
Precisely. And what those peers take for granted is just, well, it's shocking when you view it through the lens of this success trap. Things like the right to financial privacy, the freedom to choose a career based on personal interest, not just maximum earning potential for remittances, and crucially, a sense of cultural identity security that isn't threatened by their professional success.
Their peers don't get accused of acting white for speaking professionally or moving to a safer area.
Generally, no. That kind of identity policing isn't tied to their success in the same way. The successful African immigrant individual, in contrast, is often expected to produce Western levels of wealth while maintaining a level of financial entanglement and vulnerability that keeps them culturally subservient or at least financially accessible. It's a fundamental difference in expectation.
Okay, so given all this, the mandate, the penalty, the punishment, the huge financial cost, the guilt, how do individuals even start to break free? It sounds so deeply ingrained.
It is. It's incredibly difficult.
The sources propose 2 core strategies for liberation.
Right.
Well, the first one sounds very practical, maybe the immediate step, financial boundary development.
Yes, this is absolutely non-negotiable, but it requires real emotional fortitude. It's not about cutting off family suddenly, which can backfire.
Right.
It involves implementing sustainable, gradual changes. A key strategy mentioned is shifting away from these unlimited need-based demands to a fixed percentage contribution of income. So the individual decides, okay, I will contribute 5% or maybe 10% of my net salary each month to a family fund, and that is the limit.
So it sets a clear boundary.
It does, and it helps distinguish between genuine, verified emergencies and just routine, chronic financial demands that have become normalized. It forces a conversation about needs versus wants.
And the sources also recommend bringing in outside help, like a professional financial planner.
Absolutely. This is a powerful tool. Having a third-party expert involved helps professionalize the boundary. It depersonalizes the no.
How so?
Well, the individual can then honestly say, look, I met with my financial advisor. They've mandated I put X amount into my retirement fund and Y amount towards my own goals. I simply cannot jeopardize my future financial security beyond this agreed amount.
So it shifts the responsibility. It's not just the individual being selfish.
Exactly. It reframes it as an external, unavoidable obligation advised by an expert. It provides cover, essentially.
Okay, that's the practical financial side. But what about the cultural wound? That often seems like the most painful part, the accusation of betrayal. The second strategy addresses this: cultural identity integration.
Yes, and this is about healing that wound and redefining what cultural loyalty actually means. It has to mean more than just money.
How do you do that?
This is where this successful individual starts to reclaim their own narrative. They redefine their loyalty and connection through non-financial contributions.
Like what?
Well, it could mean dedicating time, maybe mentoring younger people in the community, offering professional expertise, helping relatives with resumes or business advice, perhaps setting up a small, focused family educational foundation with clear rules.
So, finding other ways to give back.
Finding ways to demonstrate commitment that aren't just writing checks. It reframes their personal success not as a debt to be endlessly repaid, but as something that honors the family's sacrifice by enabling them to lift others, to elevate the community in sustainable, non-exploitative ways. It separates achievement from obligation.
The ultimate goal, then, as the source material defines it, it sounds quite optimistic, actually. It says, the success trap presents a false choice. You don't have to choose between success or your culture.
Exactly. That's the core message of hope here. Breaking free from the financial exploitation isn't cultural abandonment. If done thoughtfully, it's actually cultural salvation.
Salvation, how so?
Because it allows the individual to finally develop a healthy cultural connection, one that supports their achievement rather than trying to exploit it. It creates conditions where success can actually enhance cultural identity and contribution instead of threatening it. That's the only way to build real, lasting intergenerational wealth and well-being in the community.
This deep dive into the success trap,
Mm-hmm.
it's been absolutely critical, I think. We've mapped out that cycle, the mandate, the penalty, the punishment,
Mm-hmm.
and we've calculated the immense lifetime cost. That potential loss of up to, nearly $7 million in wealth, it's staggering.
It truly is.
And the core dynamic, as the sources really emphasize, is exploitation.
Yeah.
Plain and simple, just disguised as cultural duty.
And that dynamic, if it's left unchecked, it has much wider implications, not just for the individuals, but for the entire community's future.
How so?
Well, failure to address this trap, according to the sources, it results in what they term cultural extinction through successful member alienation. Think about that.
Wow.
And also intergenerational trauma through guilt and obligation inheritance. If your most capable, most educated, most successful members are constantly being drained financially and then rejected culturally,
Yeah.
the community ultimately loses their talent, their wealth, their leadership potential right when they need it the most to thrive. They push away the very people who could help build a stronger future.
So we leave you, the listener, with this final provocative thought to maybe mull over. What cultural practices, what assumptions within these communities might need to evolve? How can financial independence become a point of collective pride and security, something celebrated, rather than just being a trigger for financial extraction and cultural suspicion?
A crucial question for the future.
Thank you for taking this deep dive with us.